Hey guys, what's up? It's Shauna, and this week I wanted to talk to you about how I went from being a pantser to a plotter. I'm very open in my writing group, Write Warriors, about how I used to think that I was a pantser, but I'm actually a plotter. So I had someone message me and they wanted to know how I figured out that I wasn't a pantser. So I thought it would be a really good topic to discuss on my channel, because I think a lot of people go through these growing pains as they're coming into their process of writing. So I pantsed my first draft of Hello Darkness, and I found that it wasn't for me. And it wasn't until after I did it that I realized that I shouldn't have done it that way, but I had to do it that way in order to know that it wasn't for me. So the problems that I had with it was it took way too long. It took me 1.5 years to finish, and I like to do things efficiently, and that should have been my number one thing that said, hey Shauna, you're not a pantser, you are definitely a plotter. But it didn't, and I just knew that I hated outlining in school, so there's no way that outlining could help me now, because I just want to write down the story because it's easier that way. But I learned that that is not the case if you don't know where the heck the story's going. I also noticed that every single time I got stuck, it was because I didn't know where it was going. And I had to sit there and think about, okay, this is what's going to happen next. Now I can work toward this point. At one point, I had actually written out a scene that I knew was going to happen further, and that really helped me work towards that point. So once I figured out that point, I actually put little like bullet points or little parentheses of what was happening next until I got to that scene. So essentially I outlined within my Word document or my Google Docs document. And I was just like, after I did that, I was like, okay Shauna, once you finish this draft, you're going to have to outline draft 2. Because you're not going to get the effect you want if you're not outlining. Now my second draft, I completely rewrote. It is a different book than what my first draft was because I outlined that second draft. And that really helped me move it forward, and I did that probably within 6 months. So I cut a whole year of my drafting time off just by doing that. And that outline was more just this happens, then this happens, and this happens. And obviously I knew some of the points that I made in the first one would be staying. So that draft was more of a line for each scene that was going to happen in that book. The second thing I tried was I had watched a bunch of videos about how other people outline their book, and there was like tons of people saying use note cards, do note cards, and that helps. And so I did a shorter work. It's probably about novella length. And when I wrote this one out, I did use note cards to plan it out, and it did help a lot. But I found that when I was going to write on the note cards, it was pretty much in the order that the story was going. Because I'm a very linear thinker, and I always think of what's coming next. How do I get from this point to this point, and what has to happen in between? So I literally, my note cards were just in the order that the story was going to go. So it didn't really make much sense. It just added this extra step and had papers all over the place that I didn't need to have because of just how my brain works. But I do not discourage you from trying that method, because there are a lot of people that it works for. It wasn't the method for me, and I learned that after this draft. And so I started looking again at other people's methods, and people started mentioning like the plot structure and things like that. And the things that I was seeing about plot structure just weren't comprehending in my mind. And I don't know why that is, but like the 3-act structure, I just couldn't make that work in my head no matter how many articles I read about it, and I needed something that would help me figure out, really understand plot structure and what has to happen deeply in each scene. So I don't know if I was recommended this book or if I just somehow stumbled upon it, but I read Take Off Your Pants by Libby Hawker. And this is basically a guide that can help anyone who is a pantser or a plotter or anywhere in between, because she gives you a lot of good tips on what story structure is and how things should be laid out, even if you discovery write first and go back and fix your plot points afterwards. It is just an excellent resource that I still look into today. But after I learned about structure, I re-outlined again. And that really brought Hello Darkness to what it is now. So I know a lot of people think that books can become so formulaic if you use all these methods, but it's really about how you spin it and how you make it unique enough that people don't even notice that your book is following some formula. So then I read Save the Cat, the Screenwriter's Guide, and that made a lot of things click for me again. Finally, Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. As you can see, I have so many things flagged in this book. I have this on audiobook and I got it in paperback because it's such an amazing resource, and this is the book I use now. Take Off Your Pants is really great because it really focuses on your character. So I still really like that book as like a first, if you've never done any sort of outlining before, that's a great first start. But once you start learning about structure, I think Save a Cat Writes a Novel is great. I am going to do a more detailed video about my outlining process and how exactly I use this tool. But this is the outlining method that I used for my new fantasy novel, and it's already going so much faster than Hello Darkness. I know exactly where my story's going. I caught so many plot holes before they happened, and I am so thankful that I read this book and I really studied it before starting this outline. I hope that my journey somehow helped you understand and gave you some good resources that will help you if you feel like being a pantser is just not what you are, or if you are a plotter but you're struggling with your story. I suggest maybe you try pantsing. It's all about learning what works for you and putting it to work, because the book, writing the book, is the ultimate goal, and I want to see you succeed, and I hope that it takes you less than 4 years to figure out what your process is. So I really hope that my story helped you, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave me some comments below. I'd love to talk about it with you. And like I said, I will be doing a outlining video on exactly how I use Save the Cat Writes a Novel to write my own books. So thank you guys so much for stopping in. I hope that this video helped you today. I post videos 2 to 3 times per week all about books and writing. So if that sounds good to you, I would love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe below, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!